So let's talk about something that could totally change the face of Malaysia's cities, the proposed Urban Redevelopment Act. Now, on the surface, it's a plan to fix up old, crumbling buildings. But dig a little deeper, and you'll find it sparked this huge debate about progress, people's rights, and what our cities should even be for. All right, here's our game plan. We're going to start with the root of the problem, why this is even on the table. Then we'll look at the history, before really digging into what this new act is all about. We'll spend a good bit of time on that controversial 75% rule, weigh the promises against the perils, and then wrap it all up by asking what this all means for the future of cities in Malaysia. So first things first, why are we even talking about a new law? Well, it all starts with the actual physical state of a lot of buildings in Malaysia's urban centers. And we're not just talking about a coat of paint here. We're talking about basic safety and whether these places are even livable anymore. You see this across the country, right? These multi-owner apartment blocks, known as stratified buildings, are really showing their age. I mean, after decades of wear and tear and not enough upkeep, many are in pretty rough shape. And the problems, well, they run deep. We're talking about serious structural issues, old wiring that's frankly a fire hazard, and just terrible energy efficiency. The thing is, the cost to fix all this stuff is just way too high for the owners to handle. It's an impossible situation for them. Now, you might think this idea of redeveloping our cities is some brand new thing, but it's not. It's actually the next step in a national strategy that's been in the works for a long, long time. In fact, this whole conversation really kicked off nearly 2 decades ago with something called the National Urbanization Policy. Then you fast forward to 2020, and the government gets more specific, targeting public housing that's over 30 years old. Now, groups like the Malaysian Institute of Architects are saying this new act is the final piece of the puzzle to make it all happen. And just listen to this vision from way back in 2006. The goal was for cities to be engines of economic growth that also gave people a high quality of life. That idea has been the North Star for all of this ever since. Okay, so with all that history in mind, the government is now rolling out the Urban Redevelopment Act, or the URA. This is supposed to be the actual tool, the specific plan to finally make those big long-term goals a reality. So what is it really? In a nutshell, the URA is a new set of rules designed to make it way easier to either fix up or completely rebuild those aging apartment blocks. The whole point is to improve safety and just make city living better for everyone. But here it is, the one big problem the URA wants to solve. Right now, to do anything, you need every single owner to agree, 100%. If even one person says no, the whole project is dead in the water. And you can imagine that has been a massive roadblock for years. And that brings us to the part of this new act that has everybody talking. It all comes down to a single number, a number that changes everything and is right at the heart of this entire debate. So the URA's big idea is to completely flip that script. It wants to move away from needing 100% unanimous agreement and shift to a system where you just need a majority of owners to say yes. And the proposal is pretty dramatic. For any building that's over 30 years old, the amount of consent you need for a sale or redevelopment would just plummet from that impossible 100% all the way down to 75%. Yeah, that number right there, 75%. That's the whole ballgame. It's designed to break the gridlock, to finally let these projects move forward, even if a small handful of owners are holding out. Okay, so is this a brilliant, much-needed fix for urban decay, or does it open up a whole new can of worms? Let's unpack the arguments from both sides. On the one hand, you have proponents, like government officials, making this incredible promise, a one-for-one swap. Basically, you give up your old, rundown unit, and you get a brand new, more valuable one in its place, totally free. A free house sounds amazing, right? But, and it's a big but, what about all the other costs that come with it? Getting a new home is one thing, but can you actually afford to live there once the neighborhood changes? And this is where experts start to raise some serious red flags. A fancier, more valuable home means higher property taxes. Newer buildings often have much bigger maintenance fees. So for elderly folks on a fixed income or low-income families, these new yearly costs could suddenly make their free home completely unaffordable. So when you lay it all out, you really see the two sides of the coin. The promise is clear: safer homes, renewed neighborhoods, and finally breaking that gridlock to boost property values for the majority. But the risk, the peril, is just as clear. People potentially being forced out, worries about unfair buyouts, and gentrification that could bring rising costs and push out the very people the plan was supposed to help. So where does all this leave us? This isn't just a legal debate about a new act. It's really a much bigger conversation about what kind of cities we want to live in, and maybe, more importantly, who gets to live in them. It's a really tough balancing act. And the vision behind it all is powerful. You can't deny that. The goal is to take these decaying city blocks and turn them into vibrant, modern, sustainable places that are great to live in. But in the end, it all comes down to this one fundamental clash. How do you weigh the collective good, the progress of an entire city, against the fundamental right of an individual to their own property, to their own home? The URA forces us to make a choice, right at that intersection. And that is the question that this act leaves us with. How do we build better, safer cities while making sure that every single person, no matter their income, still has a place to call home? Because it's never just about the buildings, is it? It's always about the people inside. And finding an answer that works for everyone, well, that's the biggest challenge of all.